Hi, I live here. Oh boy, I'm so glad I'm finally getting to do this. This is going to be by far the longest video on this channel. It's also going to be the longest series on the channel, for one reason and one reason only. We're talking about the Batman Arkham series. For those of you that don't know, which is all of you, Batman Arkham Asylum is my favorite game of all time, and by proxy, the Arkham series is my favorite collection of games. Over the next 4 videos, I'm going to attempt to give you an in-depth look at what I see in these games. For those of you that are new, I suggest playing the games before watching these videos. I'll be spoiling literally everything in every part of every video, so if you want even a single surprise when playing through them for the first time, I suggest playing them yourself first. For those of you that have played them before, this is for you. This video is meant to be a masterclass of sorts for both the channel and Arkham Asylum. Before I get into anything, I want to say that I'm not claiming Arkham Asylum to be the best game of all time. That statement is incredibly subjective, and I would never attempt to crown the best game ever. I will constantly be giving thoughts and opinions, and it's totally alright to disagree with some or all of what I say. But please, be civil about it. We can disagree and still be friends, so if you're going into the comments to call me a name because you disagree with one of my takes, do it. But think about it first. And please, this is going to be a huge ass video, so if you have any thoughts or opinions on what I'm talking about, I'd love to hear them. Utterly destroy the comment section. As I mentioned before, this is going to be the first video in a series of 4 or so about the Batman Arkham games. I'll be dedicating each video to a separate game as, you could probably guess, the games are way too big to put into 1 or 2 videos. I want to go as in-depth as I possibly can, talking about everything from the riddles to the challenge maps. Last thing that I will mention is that I'll be playing Batman Arkham Asylum and Arkham City on the PlayStation 5 in the Return to Arkham collection. For the most part, I won't be commenting on the PC versions of these games, as I played them all on console. There will be one video in which I will make a pretty huge point of talking about the PC port of, but for 75% of the videos, assume that I'm playing them on console. The last thing I'll be mentioning is that I'm playing all of these games on medium difficulty. I know there are those of you that swear by playing it all on hard because you think it's too easy otherwise, and it very well might be, but I wanted to make sure that the story was never overmatched by the gameplay. While each is equally important to the overall experience of the games, I want to make sure my attention can be split as evenly as possible to give you the best opinions on the game. It's great if you want to play it on easy or hard, but medium is perfect for me. Alright, enough yammering on, grab a blankie, get some snacks, stop by the bathroom, and get your Baby Yoda plushies in order, because this is my first entry in the Arkham series, Batman Arkham Asylum. Let's first and foremost start off with the story, as it's an incredibly important part of any single player game, and this one especially. The game begins with Batman driving the Joker to Arkham Asylum, Gotham's main asylum for the criminally insane. However, this isn't just any capture of the Joker. It was easy. Too easy. And Batman is on high alert. Because of this, Batman decides to escort the Joker into the facility. They reach the end of the line though, as if Batman goes any farther, he'll potentially set off some of the inmates. Needless to say, Batman was absolutely correct with his worry, as Joker breaks free as soon as he's out of reach of the Caped Crusader. Joker reveals that Harley Quinn has infiltrated the facility and has control of all of the security systems. Joker escapes down the hallway, but allows Batman to follow, just to make it exciting. As the Dark Knight travels after the Joker, he begins to see the destruction that has been caused. After rescuing some guards and inmates from Joker Toxin, and quickly dispatching an escaped Victor Zsasz, Batman gets a video message from Harley, announcing that they have kidnapped Warden Quincy Sharp and are holding him hostage. After the video, Oracle calls Batman to tell him even more bad news. The Joker has hidden bombs all over Gotham City, which he says he'll detonate if anyone comes to the island to assist Batman. Our hero continues through the facility, finally catching up to the Joker. Before he can subdue the Clown Prince though, Batman is forced to fight a monstrous, deformed inmate. Before Batman can prove victorious in the battle, the beast collapses, seemingly falling victim to the same mysterious element that gave it its size and strength. Joker is able to escape, and shortly after alerts Batman that Commissioner Gordon has been captured as well. The Dark Knight is able to see on video that a corrupt guard named Frank Bowles attacked Gordon out of nowhere in the main office. Batman heads to the office in hopes of finding a clue that can allow him to track the Commissioner. Batman finds the flask that Bowles was using, and he's able to track the traces of alcohol in the air. Unfortunately, the trail leads to a deceased Bowles, seemingly double-crossed by the Joker. With no trace of Gordon, Batman's comms are suddenly hacked by the Riddler, who reveals to Batman that he has hidden trophies around the island designed to test his intelligence and will. The Caped Crusader is able to escape out to the rest of the island. Batman gets a message from Oracle that the Batmobile is being tampered with. He arrives at the scene and he finds a few thugs damaging the vehicle. After dealing with the crowd, Batman gets his explosive gel out of his trunk and he finds Gordon's pipe and tobacco on the ground next to the vehicle. Batman uses this and tracks the Commissioner to the medical building, guarded by Harley. As the main entrance is blocked by a gate, Batman finds a way to get in through the roof. Once inside, he finds that 3 doctors have been kidnapped and taken to separate areas of the building. One of the doctors, Penelope Young, seems to have generated a curious amount of interest from the Joker. She says that she needs to head back to the Arkham Mansion for her research, and a guard named Aaron Cash says that he'll go with her for protection. After rescuing the docs, Batman takes the elevator down to the morgue to continue his search for Gordon. While in the elevator, though, he's ambushed by Scarecrow's fear toxin. Batman is taken to a psychotic reality where his fears come to life. He has to face his parents, and the reality that he couldn't save them. He also has to face Scarecrow, hiding from the villain until he can shine a mental bat symbol on him. Batman manages to escape this hellscape and track down Harley, holding Gordon hostage in a large open room. If Batman is seen by anyone, Gordon will be shot. Batman is able to sneak up to Harley and incapacitate her through the glass. As soon as he's freed, Gordon tells Batman that he thinks there is something else in the room with them. After heading to the middle of the room, the two find a venom-drained Bane, who explains that Dr. Young was the person responsible for his weakened state. After cursing the Bruja, Bane is injected with a chemical called Titan, which makes him even stronger than he was with Venom. Batman dispatches Bane, but not before ramming the hulking beast into the bay with the Batmobile. You gotta do what you gotta do, right? After Bane is taken care of, the two find that Harley is missing from the room, and Gordon gets on a boat back to the mainland. Batman decides to head to a smaller, mini Batcave that he had set up on the island over the years, and while there, he finds more information on Dr. Young. He finds out that she had been conducting tests on Bane, in an effort to learn more about Venom. She had developed a way to use the Venom strain to make a more powerful compound, Titan. Batman feels strongly that this has to be part of the Joker's big plan, so he heads off to the Arkham Mansion after Dr. Young and Cash. There, he finds it overrun with Joker's men, with Young nowhere to be seen. He finds Cash and another guard tied up, with Batman learning that Young had gone alone to find her research. He makes it to Young's office, where he finds footage of her taking the papers out of her safe. Batman scans her fingerprints and uses it to track the research to the library. The Dark Knight is able to find the notes and destroy them, but he learns from one of the guards that Joker had sent his men after Young to get the formula from her directly. While on his way to track down Dr. Young, Batman is once again ambushed by Scarecrow and his fear toxin, this time reliving his parents' deaths, before fighting Jonathan Crane in his realm of fear once again. After taking care of Scarecrow, Batman finally finds Dr. Young in Warden Sharp's office. Unfortunately, she is being held hostage by the one, the only, Victor Zsasz. Batman is able to save the doctor with a quick batarang to the face. Young explains the Joker was able to attain the formula and now has gallons of Titan. As she goes to the safe to get the security codes to a secret lab in the Botanical Gardens, she is hit by a trap explosion that was left on the safe by the Joker, killing her and incapacitating Batman. While he's down, Harley Quinn shows up, still with the Warden in her possession. She leaves her men to take care of the Batman, but not before breaking the Warden's cane over top of him with a vicious blow to the old man. I mean, we're talking about Batman, right? He easily takes down the thugs and is able to scan the DNA on the broken cane. Batman tracks the twosome to the penitentiary and passes a still locked up Poison Ivy, who begs the Bat to let her free. Of course, Batman doesn't oblige, and he continues into the building. He finally finds Sharp, tied up and alone, in a room also housing Clayface of all people. Batman is able to get the security codes from Sharp and puts them into his cryptographic sequencer, a device that can hack computers and control panels. He spots a security feed on one of the computers in the room that shows Harley freeing Ivy. Batman continues through the building and finally finds Harley. After a lengthy fight with her goons on an electrified floor, Harley attacks the Bat herself. Batman easily tosses her aside and locks her in a nearby cell, but not before finding her party list. Harley also lets it slip that the secret lab is located within the botanical gardens. Batman scans Harley's fingerprints for traces of chlorophyll and uses it to track down the lab. Once inside, he finds the Joker with 2 of his henchmen, which he promptly shoots with the Titan formula. Batman is forced to fight the 2 simultaneously, and Joker escapes in the ensuing chaos. Batman defeats the beasts and finds that the bridge behind him has been knocked down. He calls in the Batwing, which is able to drop him down his line launcher that he can use to get over large gaps and crevices. Batman decides he needs to find Ivy, as Joker is using venom-enhanced plants to create the Titan. He finds her in the gardens, and she lets him know that there is a certain plant that could be used for an antidote, but it can only be found in the sewers, more specifically, in Killer Croc's lair. Batman decides to go back to the mansion to find Cash, as the door he had previously found to Croc's lair was locked off. Once he gets outside, he finds that Ivy's plants have overtaken the island, and the Joker announces over the speaker that he provided Ivy with a sample of Titan, to make her even more powerful. Batman makes it to the mansion, just to find that poisonous gas has settled on the ground floor, and everyone in the building had to get to high ground. He finds Cash, who tells him there is an entrance to Croc's lair in the intensive treatment building, at the very bottom of the elevator shaft. Batman makes his way back into the facility, but he is ambushed for a 3rd time by the Scarecrow. Hey, breaking out a voice over here. I'll talk about this later, but this is one of my favorite sequences in any video game of all time. Alright, back to story. The gas first makes it seem like your device is glitching out, and after the screen tear appears, you're taken back to a sequence very similar to the one at the start of the game, just with the roles reversed. Joker escorts Batman into the intensive treatment building, and they eventually come into contact with Scarecrow. The game then goes to first person, and the villains that were escorting you look you over. All of a sudden, Joker pulls out a gun and shoots you point blank. You then go to the death screen, and the game gives you the advice of, use the middle stick to dodge Joker's gunfire. After you hit retry, you're taken to another Scarecrow world, where, once again, Batman's goal is to shine the bat symbol on the Scarecrow. Not gonna lie, that got a little trippy there, but we're coming out of it. The villain is able to escape once again, and Batman continues down to the lair. He makes it down to the sewers and finds Scarecrow once again, this time threatening to drop a dosage of fear toxin into the water supply, poisoning all of the water going to Gotham City. Before he can drop the toxin, he is ambushed by Croc from the water, and subsequently taken below the depths by the Beast. Batman finds the entrance to the lair and places a tracker for himself before he enters the cavern. Batman finds a few of the plants throughout the cave, all the while fending off occasional attacks from Croc. Batman is able to get to the exit and blow up the path that he took to get there, sending Croc falling into a dark abyss. Batman heads back to the Batcave to synthesize the antidote. After doing so, he goes back to the botanical gardens to take care of the empowered Ivy. Once there, Ivy encases herself into a giant flower and fights Batman with the intention of destroying the antidote. Batman uses his explosive gel and batarangs to get the upper hand, and he takes her down after an intense battle. The gardens begin collapsing from the struggle of the fight, and Batman glides out to safety. Once outside, he sees fireworks, and the Joker tells him that it's finally time for the big party, with Batman being the guest of honor. The Dark Knight follows the fireworks and enters the guest building. There, Joker reveals himself to be behind the glass, and after he runs to a back room, blows it up for Batman to follow. After heading through the door that Joker went through, Batman finds the Clown Prince on top of a throne, with the Scarface dummy. Joker reveals 2 guards that have been infected with Titan, and breaks them from their chains to take out the Batman. The Caped Crusader is able to come out victorious, and next, Joker reveals that he has recaptured Commissioner Gordon. Joker goes to shoot Gordon with Titan, but Batman jumps in front of it. He's able to fight the change though, as the Joker tries to distract him for the mutation to go through. After being unsuccessful, Joker shoots himself with the Titan, transforming him into a monstrous, terrifying version of himself. He takes Batman to the rooftop for an old-fashioned brawl. Batman comes out on top though, as he lines his glove with explosive gel and gives the Joker a massive punch to the face. And everyone lived happily ever after. Well, kind of. The police were finally able to make it to the island. All of the escaped inmates were put back into their cells, including a very weakened Joker. Gordon is just finishing congratulating Batman when he gets a radio call about Two-Face robbing a bank in the city, As Gordon turns around to talk to Batman again, the Batwing flies overhead, back towards the city, for a continuation of a very long night for the Bat. Alright, moving into my thoughts. I love this story. Writer Paul Dini, who worked on Batman the Animated Series, was brought in to write a completely original story for this game. Dini is the creator of the current Mr. Freeze origin story, and he's incredibly good at what he does. In my opinion, he hit all of the important notes. He established the significance of the Joker early on, and really played upon the psychological warfare between the two. Joker is an itch that Batman just can't get rid of. They're connected all throughout the story, and I personally feel that both characters are at their best when locked in constant conflict. The Joker is voiced to perfection by Mark Hamill, and he's absolutely electric whenever he's on screen. He's somehow simultaneously the most likable and unlikable character in the game, and that's an incredible feat to accomplish. Dini did a great job at balancing countless villains and making sure that they get their time to shine, while also staying true to what the character can provide. Grok, Ivy, and Harley come across as interesting, but not overbearing, and they allow the devs to pad the length of the game without it being boring in any way. The use of Warden Sharp and Gordon is alright. Not spectacular, but not bad in any way. They can both seem a little useless with them both getting captured early on, but it's a necessary story piece to keep the player moving forward. For those that love the Batman universe, this is a satisfying and enjoyable story. It gives tons of fan service while porting these characters to a much more realistic and gritty setting. Characters like Dr. Young were created specifically for this story, and full credit to Dini for bringing lesser-known characters like Zsasz into the fray. To be completely honest, I don't have a ton more to say about this one. It's a great story, and it's the backbone of this game. It's the perfect vessel for the gameplay to shine through, and it's able to appeal to longtime Batman fans, along with newcomers. A great part of this game. Gameplay, gameplay, gameplay. There's so many parts to the gameplay that I want to hit on. I'm going to split it into the free flow combat system, stealth, traversal, gadgets, collectibles or riddles, boss fights, and finally my thoughts and just overall nostalgia factor. Starting off with the big one, the free flow combat. You might have seen other videos that talk about how it was revolutionary for its time, and how it was the first game to use the system. Those videos are absolutely correct, and it was an incredibly important part of endearing this game to the millions of us that played it, but quite frankly, it's been overhashed, and if you've heard it before, I don't want to go over it again. I want to provide new thoughts and opinions. So just know that the innovation of this game cannot be overstated. With that being said, there's so much more to this combat system than just novelty and innovation. It's pure video game genius. There's something so satisfying to a perfectly timed counter or a combo that ends with Batman flying across the room to obliterate the back of a thug's head with his boot. Simple to learn, but difficult to master, allows a rare replay value that not many other games can provide. To put it bluntly, it makes you feel badass. The devs very obviously put effort and research into real martial arts and fighting styles, as Batman's animations look incredibly realistic. His movements have weight to them. His punches and kicks feel like something. It might only be like 3 buttons: punch, counter, and stun, but the combos that you can accomplish and the variety in animation keep it feeling fresh and exciting. I have 2 main critiques with the free flow system. The first is just that there could be more animations. Yes, I know I just said that combat is fresh and there's variety in animation, but you can never have too much of a good thing, right? That is very much a nitpick. The second critique that I have revolves around some of the control in combat situations. There are times where you'll get animation locked into a counter or a punch or something, and you'll try to cancel and still just get hit by another goon. This can be very annoying, as it's super easy to break a combo or a streak if you're not paying attention. On the one hand, it could be viewed as adding to the difficulty, but it can feel clunky and slow at times, which definitely does not fit in with the rest of the system. There are a good number of different enemy types. You have your regular goons and your thugs with bars or bats. These enemies are pretty straightforward and simple punch and counter enemies. The stun baton enemies come along and provide some more nuance to the gameplay. In order to deal with these guys, you have to evade over them and strike them in the back. This alleviates some of the stagnation, but it doesn't completely get better until the knife enemies show up. You have to strike these ones after you've stunned them with your cape. Then, you have the Psychos, which are a simple counter when they jump at you unit. Last but not least, we have the Titans, which only really become vulnerable after you hit them with a batarang after they charge. All of these come together to give the game a nice variation. At the later stages, you have to remember these enemy types and think critically about what you have to do for each. It requires you to come up with a small plan of sorts for how you're going to work through it, and I think that's important in a game as simple as this. It's very easy to get button mashy, and the unique takedown methods ensure that doesn't happen. The novelty of the system itself definitely shouldn't be lost, but I feel that it should be given more credit for the addicting and satisfying gameplay that it provides. Can't have combat without stealth, can you? The stealth sections may not be quite as prevalent as the free flow sections, but in many ways they're equally as important. Stealth mainly consists of grappling between gargoyles, waiting for your chance to swoop down and take out some unsuspecting thug below. Stealth sections can be quite repetitive and time-consuming if you're unwilling to use gadgets. Batarangs, explosive gel, and the backclaw can be insanely fun to use as they require you to think outside the box and make the environment work for you. There's also silent takedowns and other variations on the move. I really do feel that if you want these stealth portions to be samey, they will be. This is one of the few times where I highly suggest putting restrictions on yourself. It would be one thing if these were easy sections that could be speedran or passed through quickly without much hassle, but stealth is a major part of the game. That gets tiring well before the halfway mark. I understand what the devs were going for with the systems put in place. The control for takedowns and grappling portions are done really well. Unlike some of the free flow portions, the gliding and takedowns don't feel clunky whatsoever. It controls well, and I think it's effective in making you feel like the Dark Knight. It makes you feel like the shadowy figure you're supposed to be portraying. But this intuitiveness doesn't keep it fresh or exciting. The only variation on the stealth gameplay throughout the game is when Joker gets his thugs just strap bombs to some of the gargoyles and vantage points. They blow up if you spend a certain amount of time on them, so you definitely have to try to move around quickly and think on your feet. Unfortunately, this is introduced over 3/4 of the way through the game, so it doesn't last for nearly long enough in my opinion. Many of the settings where stealth takes place are well designed. I specifically think back to the intensive treatment building and the botanical gardens as settings that had variation and really stood out. The last thing I'm going to mention in this section is the fear mechanic. This mechanic operates around the basis that the more thugs you take out, the more they'll be on edge. This can mean that they'll stick closer together, making it harder for you to find openings. They might think they see something and shoot randomly at a wall or a gargoyle. It's an interesting thing, and it was incredibly advanced for 2009. Things like this really show the attention to detail and allow you to become more immersed in the world. Overall, the stealth is fine. It might not be my favorite, but it does a great job at making you feel like the Batman, and that statement is a meme for a good reason. Next up we have traversal. Since the map is pretty small, this won't be a huge section, but it's important nonetheless. Other than moving on foot, Batman's main source of movement is his grapple gun. It allows him to move quickly to higher ground or between vantage points in stealth sections. It's incredibly necessary for a traversal of the island, as it would be impossible to get up to many of the sniper towers otherwise. The grapple gun makes sure that traversing the island doesn't feel like a chore, and that's the most important thing. It doesn't need to be highly enjoyable all the time, but it shouldn't be a hassle. The other main gadget that Batman uses is the line launcher. This is mainly useful in the sewer system and underground. The line launcher allows Batman to set up a zipline of sorts to get over large gaps. This tool is vital in the underground, as much of the terrain is too unstable to grapple to. Somehow the line launcher is safer, I don't know either, so it's the main thing that you'll use down there. That's about it. In later games, this section will be much larger as the open worlds necessitate better options for movement, but it's not really an issue in this one. If you've played the other games, you'll know that the gadgets in Asylum are basic but effective. Starting off with the trusty Batarang. It's incredibly useful for quick stuns within free flow and stealth sections. Stunning with the Batarang opens goons up to be taken out with a good old knockout punch. This is a one-hit KO, so I highly suggest using the quick Batarangs in combat. I love how they made shortcuts for many of the gadgets to declunkify operating and aiming them. Great design. We also have the Batclaw and the explosive gel. The Batclaw is used for pulling high-set vents off of the wall. It's also useful to pull enemies towards you in fighting sequences, maintaining your combo and keeping your rhythm going. The gel can't really be used in combat, as it takes a while for the spray animation to go off. It's great for stealth, however, as blowing up an unsuspecting thug as he walks by never gets old. The final gadget I'll mention is the cryptographic sequencer. As previously mentioned, this device is used to hack control panels and other electronics. The gadget itself is pretty simple, but the hacking minigame is a nice little break from the usual gameplay. Gadgets should be used to enhance the gameplay, and these definitely accomplish that. And here we come to the collectibles. I feel that this is one of the most underrated aspects of this game. First, we have the Riddler trophies, and boy, there are a lot of them. As could be expected, they're scattered around the map, and if you're looking for them, you'll most likely find one. In vents, on top of buildings, it's not hard to find them, but the completionist in you will love them. My favorites are the riddles. Along the same lines as the trophies, they aren't difficult to find, but they reference other characters from the universe. Villains like Ratcatcher and Two-Face don't make appearances in the game, but they're referenced in riddles. These might not be obvious to those who aren't familiar with the outside lore or the comics, but for those of you that are really into Batman, it's so satisfying and cool to see a reference and know exactly who it's for. This was easily my favorite part of the post-game, looking around the maps and in the buildings for little references and Easter eggs to other parts of the world. The devs did an awesome job with this, and I highly suggest trying to 100% if you feel that you're a big Batman fan. If you do manage to 100%, you get audio of the Riddler's home being raided and the criminal being captured. It's incredibly rewarding. Bosses are a pretty important part of many single-player games, and they should have been an important part of this game too. Unfortunately, the boss fights consistently fall short, headlined by the most egregious final boss I played against in any game. Starting off with the positives, I liked how they reimagined a character like Scarecrow. Normally he wouldn't be any sort of physical threat, but when he's in control, when he's got the upper hand, he's truly terrifying. The devs had a great understanding of what makes the character a threat, and the Scarecrow fights play to that quite well. It takes a certain skill to make a physically frail character intimidating, and Asylum accomplishes this well. The Bane fight, Croc fight, and Ivy fight are fine in my opinion, if unspectacular. The final fight with the Joker, however, is a fight that cannot be redeemed. It is a disservice to both this game and the character of the Joker as a whole to make him yet another massive brute. The whole pull of the Joker is that he always has the upper hand, even when it appears that he shouldn't, and this fight completely disregards all of that. As you might remember from the synopsis, Joker shoots himself with the Titan formula, and becomes yet another monstrous beast. His design is fine, I guess. He's definitely repulsive, with compound fractures all over, and his long nose and chin even more accentuated. If they had to make him a Titan, he looks good for being one. Not only do I have an issue with him being reduced to yet another simple physical threat, but he isn't even a threat. To put it simply, the final boss fight is, in this order: avoid Joker's swipes, fight off goons and teeth bombs, ultra Batclaw Joker in the back, and punch him until he frees himself. Do that 3 times, and the game is over. It's an insanely anticlimactic way to end an incredible game. The Joker isn't even paying attention for half the fight. It might as well be a fight the thug simulator, because in many ways you barely fight the Clown Prince. I think it would have been cool if they had still made the Joker into a Titan, but they had it as like a stealth section, where Batman couldn't use his grapple or detective vision. You would have to use the other gadgets at your disposal, and they could make Joker's AI much smarter than the regular thugs, with him checking vents and grates regularly. It would be a tense as hell fight, and it would lean into the already very prevalent horror aspects of the game. That's just another option though, as I feel like there was endless possibilities for a great final boss fight. Unfortunately, they just couldn't deliver, and I know that it left a sour taste inside many players' mouths. Hey, you're still here! Congratulations, you get the Cares a Lot About Batman Arkham Asylum trophy. I now have to subscribe and like a video on your channel, and I have to make you a sandwich whenever you ask. Moving on. This last portion is going to be surrounding my nostalgia with the game. It's been my favorite game since I played it for the first time, and it's not hard to still see why. For comic book fans, this game captures that same sort of magic. It allows the characters to breathe in a world that feels real, and that's all I ever really wanted as a young kid. There's definitely other games that might do it better. The next game in the series does it better, for crying out loud. But there's a certain charm to Arkham Asylum that just doesn't go away. I've played through it over 7 times now, and I still adore it just as much as I did when I first played it. It's not perfect, but it doesn't need to be. I'm so grateful that this game exists. It was able to usher in the era of awesome licensed superhero games. that we have had the privilege of experiencing. My vision is definitely clouded with rose-colored glasses. Heck, everything from the pre-rendered cutscenes stuck in 720p to the bang-ass soundtrack that plays through the game gives me chills. But even though I'm biased, you should still give this game another playthrough. If it got us through childhood, it can get us through adulthood. Probably. Maybe. Not? That was my retrospective on Batman Arkham Asylum, and thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed.